You thought this was the end? This is just the first act.
The moment I posted Tyler's crayon masterpiece on Facebook, my phone exploded like a grenade in my pocket. "Delete that right now!" Lisa's voice shrieked through the speaker, making me nearly drop my coffee. I hadn't heard from my brother's ex-wife in 8 years, not since their messy divorce turned our family gatherings into war zones. "Good morning to you too, Lisa," I said, staring at my 5-year-old son's innocent drawing of stick figures around what looked like a treasure chest. "What's got your underwear in a twist this time? Jake, I'm serious. Take down that picture immediately. Don't let Tyler out of your sight. The terrible truth, it's my stash." I blinked. "Your what now?" "The drawing shows where I hid my emergency money when I was staying at your place. During the divorce, I thought Tyler was just playing, but he saw everything." "That's not a treasure chest. It's my lockbox under the loose floorboard in your guest room." The pieces clicked together like a puzzle solving itself. Lisa had lived with us for 3 months while fighting my brother Danny in court, claiming she was broke and desperate. Meanwhile, she'd been stashing cash like a paranoid squirrel, probably skimming from their joint accounts before the lawyers froze everything. "How much are we talking about here?" I asked, walking to the guest room. $43,000, she whispered. "Jake, please, I'll split it with you. Just delete the post and pretend this never happened." I pried up the loose board Tyler had apparently been fascinated with. Sure enough, a metal lockbox sat nestled between the joists, covered in dust and spiderwebs. The lock was a joke, a simple 4-digit combination that probably matched her birthday. "You know what, Lisa? I think we should meet in person to discuss this properly. How about the town square? Say, noon? Why can't we just handle this over the phone? Because some conversations deserve the personal touch. Don't worry, I'll bring Tyler. He loves feeding the pigeons." 3 hours later, I watched Lisa pace nervously by the fountain, checking her phone every 30 seconds. She'd dressed up for the occasion. Designer jeans, expensive handbag, the kind of outfit that screamed, "I'm definitely not hiding stolen money." Tyler ran ahead with a bag of breadcrumbs while I wheeled a small suitcase behind me. Lisa's eyes locked onto it immediately. "Is that your life savings? Maybe. First, I think the good people of Millbrook deserve to know what kind of person you really are." I pulled out an air horn from my jacket. One blast brought half the square's attention our way. The other half turned when I started speaking in my best carnival barker voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, gather round for a special presentation about family values and hidden treasure." Lisa's face went white. "Jake, don't do this. This lovely woman is Lisa Patterson, formerly Lisa Mitchell. 8 years ago, she cried poverty while stealing from her own husband, my brother, and hiding the evidence in my house." A small crowd had gathered, including Mrs. Krantz from next door, who lived for this kind of drama. I opened the suitcase with a theatrical flourish, revealing not money, but dozens of biodegradable confetti poppers. Lisa thought she was so clever, hiding her dirty money while playing the victim. But you know what? I believe in celebrating honesty. I triggered the first popper, sending a shower of pink and gold confetti over her head. Then another, and another. Tyler clapped and laughed, thinking it was the best game ever. "The money's going back to my brother, where it belongs," I announced as Lisa sputtered and tried to brush confetti from her hair. "And Lisa here is going to explain to him personally why she's been living in a mansion while claiming she couldn't afford groceries." The crowd was eating it up. Mrs. Krantz had her phone out, recording everything. Lisa looked like she wanted to crawl into the fountain and disappear. "You're insane," she screamed. "No, I'm thorough, and I really, really don't like liars." As we walked away, Tyler tugging on my hand and chattering about the pretty confetti, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Pure satisfaction. There was something intoxicating about exposing a fraud, about watching someone face consequences for their choices. I had no idea how much I was going to need that feeling in the coming weeks. The first sign of trouble came that evening. Samantha barely looked up from her laptop when Tyler and I walked through the door, still buzzing with excitement about our confetti adventure. "How was your day?" I asked, settling into my usual spot on the couch. "Fine, busy. The Morrison project is ending me." She didn't even glance my way, fingers clicking across the keyboard with mechanical precision. This had become our routine. She'd work late, come home exhausted, and treat our family like an inconvenience, interrupting her important career. I'd married an architect, but somewhere along the way she'd become a stranger who happened to share my address. Tyler drew another picture today, I said, hoping to spark some interest. Want to see it? Maybe later. I need to finish these revisions. Tyler climbed onto my lap, holding up his latest masterpiece, Our Family at the Beach, complete with a sandcastle and seagulls. In his 5-year-old world, we were still happy. That's beautiful, buddy. Should we put it on the refrigerator? Yeah. And maybe Mommy will see it when she gets her coffee tomorrow. Samantha's typing paused for just a moment, then resumed, faster than before. After putting Tyler to bed, I found myself staring at the laundry basket, wondering when I'd become the only parent who remembered things like washing clothes and buying groceries. Samantha's work clothes lay crumpled at the bottom, expensive blouses that cost more than my weekly salary, designer pants that made her look like success incarnate. That's when I found it, a phone. Not her regular iPhone, with the cracked screen and Tyler's fingerprints, but a sleek, black device I'd never seen before. The screen lit up when I touched it, revealing a password prompt. My first thought was work. Maybe her firm issued secure phones for sensitive projects. But something nagged at me. Some instinct honed by years of marriage and Tyler's bedtime stories about pirates and hidden treasures. I tried her birthday. Wrong. Tyler's birthday. Wrong. Our anniversary. The phone unlocked. The messages hit me like a physical blow. Dozens of them, stretching back months. Photos I couldn't unsee. Hotel receipts. Plans and promises and intimate details about my wife's secret life. The contact name was simply B, but the messages made everything clear. Brent Morrison. The client whose project was ending her. The reason for all those late nights and weekend meetings. I sat on our bedroom floor, scrolling through evidence of my marriage's destruction, feeling something cold and sharp crystallizing in my chest. It wasn't just betrayal. It was the amateur hour nature of it all. The stupid password. The careless way she'd left the phone in her pocket. The lazy lies about working late. If you're going to destroy someone's life, at least have the courtesy to be creative about it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw you at the square today. Nice show. Be careful who you embarrass. Some people don't forget. I stared at the message, then at the evidence of my wife's affair, then at Tyler's drawing on the nightstand showing our happy family that never really existed. Someone was watching me. Someone thought I was the problem. They had no idea what a real problem looked like. The next morning brought coffee, cartoons, and the surreal experience of making Tyler's lunch while my wife showered off another man's touch. She hummed in there, actually hummed, like Betrayal was a Broadway musical, and she'd landed the lead role. Daddy, why does Mommy smell different? Tyler asked, spooning cereal into his mouth with the concentration of a surgeon. Different how, buddy? Like flowers, but not our flowers. Strange flowers. Kids notice everything. Adults just pretend they don't. Samantha emerged in full armor. The navy suit that cost more than my car payment. Heels that clicked authority across our kitchen floor. Makeup applied with military precision. She looked like success, confidence, and lies wrapped in designer fabric. I'll be late again tonight, she announced, not quite meeting my eyes. The Morrison project needs major revisions. Right, Morrison. I let the name hang in the air like smoke. Demanding client? You have no idea. She grabbed her coffee mug, the one Tyler made her last Christmas with World's Best Mom, painted in crooked letters. He's very hands-on. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't destroying my family. After dropping Tyler at school, I drove to my office at Millbrook Insurance, where I spent 8 hours explaining to people why their claims were denied while thinking about my wife's hands-on client. My coworker Janet tried to engage me in small talk about weekend plans, but I couldn't focus on anything except the weight of that burner phone in my jacket pocket. At lunch, I called Richie's boxing club. Mitchell's gym, this is Richie. It's Jake, I need to hit something hard. Rough day in insurance land? Something like that. You free around 6? For you, always, but Jake, you sound different. Everything okay at home? Richie had been my friend since high school, back when my biggest worry was passing chemistry and working up the courage to ask Sarah Henderson to prom. He'd seen me through college, my wedding, Tyler's birth, and every crisis in between. If anyone would understand what I was planning, It would be him. I'll explain when I see you. The afternoon crawled by like a wounded animal. Every time my desk phone rang, I wondered if it was Samantha calling to confess, or maybe Brent Morrison wanting to discuss his insurance needs. Instead, it was just the usual parade of fender benders and water damage claims. At 5:30, I told Janet I was leaving early for a dentist appointment. She nodded sympathetically, probably thinking I was dealing with a root canal instead of planning surveillance on my cheating wife. The parking deck downtown was a concrete monument to urban decay. 6 levels of oil stains, broken lights, and the kind of shadows that made honest people walk faster. Samantha's firm occupied the top 3 floors of the adjacent building, all glass and steel and architectural ambition reaching toward the sky. I parked on the 4th level with a clear view of the entrance, feeling like a private detective in a bad movie. The burner phone sat on my passenger seat, its secrets burning through my consciousness like acid. At 6:15, Samantha emerged from the elevator, but she wasn't alone. Brent Morrison walked beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched, far enough apart to maintain plausible deniability if anyone was watching. Which someone was. He was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, expensive haircut, the kind of confident stride that came from never being told no. They talked animatedly as they walked, his hand occasionally touching her back in a gesture that was definitely not professional. They stopped beside a black BMW that probably cost more than my annual salary. Instead of saying goodbye like normal business associates, Samantha glanced around the parking deck, then slipped into his passenger seat. I started my engine and followed at a distance, my heart hammering against my ribs like a caged bird. They drove through downtown, past the square, where I'd humiliated Lisa just yesterday, toward the newer part of town where chain hotels offered discretion for the right price. The Hampton Inn. How romantic. I parked across the street and watched them enter the lobby together, Samantha's head tilted toward his ear as he whispered something that made her laugh. The same laugh she used to save for my jokes, back when we still told each other jokes. My phone buzzed. A text from Samantha, "Working late again, don't wait up." I screenshotted the message, then took photos of the hotel, their cars, and the timestamp on my dashboard clock. Evidence, documentation, the building blocks of revenge. Instead of following them inside, I walked to Brent's BMW and crouched beside the rear tire. The valve cap twisted off easily, and I pressed the tip of my car key against the valve stem until I heard the satisfying hiss of escaping air. Not enough to cause a blowout, just enough to make their romantic evening end with a call to roadside assistance. I repeated the process on his front tire, then left a note under his windshield wiper. Cheaters always get flat tires. Funny how that works. A friend. The drive to Richie's gym took 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. My hands shook on the steering wheel, adrenaline and rage mixing in my system like a dangerous cocktail. Richie took one look at my face and pointed toward the heavy bag. "Wrap your hands first. Then tell me who we're pretending that bag is." I spent 30 minutes turning my knuckles raw against leather and sand, explaining between punches how I discovered my wife's affair, followed her to a hotel, and committed my first act of petty vandalism in 20 years. "So what's the plan?" Richie asked when I finally stopped hitting things. "I don't know yet, but I'm done being the guy who doesn't know what's happening in his own marriage. Just be smart about it, Jake. You want to fight dirty? Do it with your brain, not your fists. Guys like this Morrison, they think money makes them untouchable. Prove them wrong, but do it legal." I was toweling off when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? This is Brent Morrison. I believe you left me a note tonight." My blood turned to ice water. "I think you have the wrong number." "I don't think so, Jake. Yes, I know who you are, and I know you've been watching us. Here's some free advice. Back off or you'll regret it." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. How did he know my name? How did he get my number? And more importantly, what kind of man threatens a husband instead of apologizing for sleeping with his wife? "What was that about?" Richie asked. "Change of plans. I'm not backing off. I'm doubling down." As I drove home through the darkened streets of Millbrook, past the houses where normal families were probably eating dinner and helping with homework, I felt something fundamental shift inside my chest. The nice guy who believed in fairness and second chances was dying, replaced by someone harder and more calculating. Someone who understood that if you want to destroy your enemies, you have to be willing to become something they never saw coming. Samantha's car was already in our driveway when I arrived, which meant her late night had ended earlier than expected, probably right around the time Brent discovered his flat tires. She was in the kitchen, still in her work clothes, pouring wine like she'd earned it. "How was your evening?" I asked casually. "Exhausting. Morrison is impossible to please. We went over the same revisions for hours." "That sounds frustrating. Where did you end up working? His office?" A tiny hesitation. "Yes, his office." I nodded sympathetically, filing away another lie for future reference. "Well, hopefully tomorrow will be easier." "Hopefully." She kissed my cheek, the same lips that had been on another man 2 hours ago, and headed upstairs to shower off the evidence of her deception. I sat in our living room, surrounded by Tyler's toys and family photos that felt like artifacts from an archaeological dig, and planned my next move. Brent Morrison thought he could threaten me into submission. Samantha thought she was clever enough to live a double life indefinitely. They were both about to learn that the nice guy they'd been walking all over had claws. And I was just getting started. Tyler's school art night was supposed to be one of those wholesome family events where parents pretended to understand their children's creative genius while drinking bad coffee from paper cups. Instead, it became the opening battle in a war I didn't know I was fighting. "Look, Daddy, my picture made it onto the wall." Tyler bounced on his toes, pointing at his latest masterpiece. A crayon drawing of our family at a picnic, complete with ants marching toward our sandwich. "That's incredible, buddy. Should we find Mommy so she can see it too?" Samantha stood across the classroom, wineglass in hand despite the event supposedly being alcohol-free, deep in conversation with Megan Walsh. I'd met Megan a few times at company parties, another architect from Samantha's firm, single and the kind of woman who treated other people's marriages like suggestions rather than commitments. What made my blood pressure spike wasn't their conversation, but the man standing just close enough to eavesdrop while pretending to admire finger paintings. Brent Morrison, looking like he belonged at a country club instead of an elementary school art show. "Jake!" Mrs. Henderson, Tyler's teacher, appeared at my elbow with the enthusiasm of someone who genuinely loved 5-year-olds. "Tyler's been so excited about tonight. He told the whole class his daddy was coming to see his art. Wouldn't miss it for the world. He's such a sweet boy. Always talking about his family and how much he loves his mommy and daddy." She lowered her voice conspiratorially. "Between you and me, it's refreshing to see parents who still make time for each other. So many couples these days seem to be living separate lives." I followed her gaze toward Samantha, who was now laughing at something Megan had whispered in her ear, while Brent watched with the intensity of a predator studying prey. "Yes, we're very connected. Tyler drew another family picture yesterday. Would you like to see it?" She led me to Tyler's desk, where his latest creation lay among scattered crayons and glue sticks. This one showed our house, but with an extra figure standing in the yard, a tall stick person with dark hair and a frown. "Who's this?" I asked. Tyler said it's the sad man who comes to visit sometimes. He stands outside and looks at your windows. Ice water flooded my veins. Did Tyler say anything else about this man? Just that he drives a dark car and makes his mommy nervous. I stared at the drawing, my mind racing through possibilities. Someone had been watching our house. Someone who made even Samantha uncomfortable, which meant it probably wasn't Brent. "Mrs. Henderson, has anyone been asking questions about Tyler lately? Or about our family?" Her smile faltered. "Well, there was a man last week, said he was conducting a survey about neighborhood safety. He asked about Tyler's schedule, when he arrives and leaves, that sort of thing." "What did he look like?" "Average height, brown hair, maybe 45. He had a clipboard and everything, seemed official." Before I could ask more questions, Tyler's voice cut through the classroom chatter. "Mommy, come see my picnic picture." Samantha excused herself from Megan and Brent, walking over with the kind of smile she used to reserve for genuinely happy moments. For a second, watching her admire our son's artwork, I almost forgot about hotel receipts and burner phones. "This is beautiful, sweetheart. Tell me about the ants." "Daddy says ants work together as a team. They're bringing food back to their family." "That's very smart. Daddy knows a lot about teamwork." She looked at me when she said it, and something passed between us. A moment of the connection we used to share before architecture and ambition and Brent Morrison complicated everything. Then Megan appeared beside us like a storm cloud. "Samantha, you have to come meet the Johnsons. They're building that house on Maple Street, and I think they'd be perfect for your residential portfolio." "Oh," I should probably stay with Jake and Tyler. Nonsense. This is networking. Jake understands how important your career is, don't you, Jake? I smiled the kind of smile that probably looked friendly to casual observers, but felt like broken glass in my mouth. Of course, Samantha's career is very important to all of us. Megan's eyes narrowed slightly, like she was trying to decode my tone. Exactly. Come on, Sam. They won't wait forever. As they walked away, Tyler tugged on my sleeve. Daddy, why don't you like Miss Megan? What makes you think I don't like her? Your face gets scrunchy when she talks to Mommy. Kids notice everything. Adults just pretend they don't. Sometimes grown-ups have complicated feelings about other grown-ups. Like how I don't like Tommy Peterson because he pulls girls' hair? Something like that, buddy. We were examining Tyler's clay sculpture of what might have been a dinosaur or possibly a deformed horse when Brent Morrison materialized beside us. You must be Jake. I'm Brent Morrison. He extended his hand with the confidence of someone who'd never been punched in the face. I shook it, noting his expensive watch and the way he positioned himself between me and the rest of the room. The Morrison of the Morrison Project. I've heard so much about you. All good things, I hope. Your wife is incredibly talented, very dedicated to her work. Yes, she certainly puts in long hours, nights, weekends, whatever it takes to satisfy her clients. His smile never wavered, but something shifted behind his eyes. I appreciate thorough service. I always make sure to show my gratitude appropriately. Tyler was obliviously building a tower from wooden blocks, humming to himself, while two grown men engaged in verbal warfare over his head. I'm sure you do. In fact, I heard you had some car trouble last night. Flat tires can be so inconvenient. Accidents happen, though I'm starting to think some accidents aren't as random as they seem. Funny how that works. Sometimes the universe has a way of teaching people lessons they didn't know they needed to learn. Brent stepped closer, lowering his voice to just above a whisper. Let me be clear, Jake. Your wife is a grown woman who makes her own choices. If you have a problem with those choices, take it up with her. Leave me out of your marital drama. Oh, I don't have any marital drama. I have a very clear understanding of what's happening in my life. The question is whether you understand what you've gotten yourself into. Before he could respond, Tyler's block tower collapsed with a crash that made half the classroom turn our way. In the moment of distraction, I leaned close enough to smell Brent's expensive cologne. Stay away from my family. This is your only warning. I straightened up with a smile, ruffling Tyler's hair as he started rebuilding his tower. Nice meeting you, Brent. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced conversations and fake smiles. Samantha worked the room like a politician. Megan played wingman, and Brent kept his distance while watching me with the wariness of someone who'd finally realized that he wasn't the smartest person in the room. As we packed up Tyler's artwork and prepared to leave, Mrs. Krantz from next door appeared with her usual perfect timing for gossip. Jake, I didn't expect to see you here. How lovely that you're so involved in Tyler's education. Wouldn't miss it. Tyler's very proud of his art. As he should be. Such a creative child. Though I have to ask, have you noticed any unusual activity in the neighborhood lately? Strange cars, unfamiliar people? My pulse quickened. What kind of activity? Well, there's been a man driving slowly past your house several times this week. Dark sedan, tinted windows. He parks across the street sometimes, just watching. I was going to call the police, but I thought I should mention it to you first. Samantha had gone very still beside me, her face pale under the fluorescent lights. Did you get a license plate number, I asked. Partial. Started with BRV, I think. I wrote it down at home if you'd like me to check. That would be helpful. Thanks for keeping an eye out, Mrs. Krantz. As we walked to our cars, Tyler chattering about his successful art show, I felt the weight of invisible eyes on my back. Someone was watching our family. Someone who made Samantha nervous and Tyler uncomfortable. The question was whether it was connected to her affair, or if I'd stumbled into something much more dangerous than adultery. Jake, Samantha said quietly as we reached our cars. About tonight, Brent was just being friendly. He's an important client. I'm sure he is. Very hands-on, from what I hear. She flinched like I'd slapped her. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing at all. I'm just glad you're so dedicated to customer service. I strapped Tyler into his car seat, kissed his forehead, and drove home through streets that felt less safe than they had that morning. Behind us, Samantha followed in her own car, probably calling Megan or Brent to to debrief about the evening's confrontations. At home, after Tyler was asleep and Samantha was locked in her office finishing work, I sat in our dark living room and thought about art shows and mysterious watchers, and the way my son drew sad men standing outside our house. Someone thought they could intimidate me into backing down. Someone believed threats and surveillance would make me a more compliant husband. They were about to learn that the opposite was true. Every threat just made me more creative. Every attempt at intimidation just gave me more motivation to destroy them completely. And I was getting very motivated. 2 days after the art show, I made a decision that would have horrified the old Jake, the one who believed in fairness and second chances and working things out through honest communication. But that Jake had died somewhere between finding the burner phone and watching his wife lie about hotel meetings. The new Jake understood that some people only learn through consequences. I called in sick to work and spent the morning researching Brent Morrison's life with the thoroughness of a private investigator. Social media, property records, business licenses, even his college alumni newsletter. By noon, I had a complete picture of a man who'd built his success on charm, inherited money, and the kind of ethical flexibility that made him think sleeping with married women was just another business transaction. He lived alone in a downtown condo that cost more than most people's houses. Divorced twice, no kids, the kind of bachelor lifestyle that looked glamorous in movies but probably felt empty at 3 in the morning. His business, Morrison Development, specialized in high-end residential projects for clients who valued style over substance. Perfect. Men like that had reputations to protect. At 2 o'clock, I drove to his building and sweet-talked the doorman into letting me deliver a surprise gift to Mr. Morrison's apartment. $20 and a story about being Brent's college roommate opened doors that should have stayed locked. His condo was exactly what I'd expected. All glass and steel and expensive furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum instead of a home. No family photos, no personal touches, just the sterile perfection of someone who'd confused wealth with happiness. I didn't break anything, didn't steal anything, just rearranged his life in ways that would make him understand he wasn't as untouchable as he thought. First, I found his laptop and used his saved passwords. Seriously, who saves their passwords in their browser to access his social media accounts? A few carefully crafted posts about the importance of family values and marital fidelity, scheduled to go live during his next business meeting. Then I moved to his kitchen, where I used ketchup and mustard to write "cheater" across his pristine white walls. Not permanent damage, just a message that would take hours to clean and leave him wondering how I'd gotten inside his fortress. His bedroom came next. I short-sheeted his bed, filled his dresser drawers with confetti, and left a note on his pillow. Some games have consequences. Stop playing with my family. The bathroom was too tempting to resist. I unscrewed the shower head and filled it with red food coloring, loosened the toilet seat so it would shift unexpectedly, and replaced his expensive shampoo with honey. Finally, I went to his garage and found his precious BMW, the same car I'd given flat tires 2 nights ago. New tires, but the same arrogant vehicle that had carried him to hotels with my wife. I didn't damage it, but I did fill the interior with biodegradable confetti and dead fish from the bait shop downtown. The smell would take weeks to eliminate, even with professional cleaning. As I was leaving through the parking garage, my phone buzzed with a text from Samantha. Working late again tonight. Morrison project deadline moved up. I smiled and typed back, "Good luck with that. Hope it goes better than expected." Then I drove to the coffee shop across from Samantha's office building and waited. At 6:30, she emerged with Megan, both of them looking frustrated and checking their phones constantly. They stood on the sidewalk for 10 minutes, clearly waiting for someone who wasn't coming. My phone rang. "Jake, it's me. Change of plans. I'm coming home early tonight. Brent had to cancel our meeting." "Everything okay?" He said something about a family emergency. Very unlike him to be unprofessional. "Well, family comes first. I'll heat up dinner." I was setting the table when she walked through the door, earlier than she'd been home in months. Tyler launched himself at her legs with the enthusiasm of someone who'd missed his mother, and for a moment we almost looked like a normal family again. "How was your day?" she asked, settling onto the couch with Tyler curled against her side. "Quiet, ran some errands, did some research for work. Nothing exciting." "What kind of research?" "Just background checks on some clients. You'd be amazed what people put on social media these days. Makes you wonder if they think before they post. She went very still. What do you mean? Oh, personal information, photos they probably shouldn't share, passwords that are way too easy to guess. It's like some people want their privacy invaded. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I answered on speaker. Jake Mitchell? This is Brent Morrison. We need to talk. Samantha's face went white. Tyler looked up curiously at the angry voice coming from my phone. I'm having dinner with my family, Brent. Can this wait? You know perfectly well it can't wait. What you did today was breaking and entering. That's a felony. I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been home all day with my son, haven't I, Tyler? Tyler nodded solemnly. Daddy made pancakes for lunch and we watched cartoons. You're lying, Brent snarled. The doorman identified you. I have security footage. That's interesting. You should definitely call the police if you think a crime was committed. I'm sure they'd love to investigate your living situation. Silence stretched across the connection like a taut wire. This isn't over, he finally said. You're right, it's not. I hung up and looked at Samantha, who was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Jake, what was that about? I have no idea. Some people get very upset when their perfect lives develop complications. Tyler, want to help Daddy make dessert? As we worked in the kitchen, measuring ingredients and pretending everything was normal, I could feel Samantha watching me with new eyes. The compliant husband who didn't ask questions was disappearing, replaced by someone unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Good. It was about time she realized she wasn't the only one capable of keeping secrets. That night, after Tyler was asleep and Samantha was locked in her office, making frantic phone calls, I sat in our darkened living room and planned my next move. Brent Morrison thought he could threaten me with legal action. Samantha thought she could continue her double life indefinitely. They were both about to learn that I was just getting started. My phone buzzed with a text from the same unknown number that had warned me about embarrassing people. Impressive work today, but you're being watched. Be careful. I stared at the message, my mind racing through possibilities. Someone was helping me. Someone who knew about my activities and approved. Someone who understood that sometimes justice required creative methods. The question was whether this mysterious ally was a friend or just another player in a game I didn't fully understand yet. Either way, I was committed now. The old Jake, who believed in fairness and communication, was dead. The new Jake understood that some people only learned through consequences, and I was very good at teaching lessons. The call came at 3 a.m, jarring me from dreams of confetti and revenge into the harsh reality of our bedroom. Samantha's phone, her real phone, not the burner, was buzzing insistently on her nightstand. She fumbled for it in the darkness, her voice thick with sleep. Hello? I lay perfectly still, pretending to be unconscious while listening to her side of the conversation. What do you mean, suspended? No, I had nothing to do with that. Megan, calm down. Yes, I know about Brent's apartment. My pulse quickened. This was better than Christmas morning. I can't talk about this now. Jake's right here. No, he doesn't know anything. I'll call you tomorrow. She hung up and sat on the edge of the bed, her silhouette tense against the window. I could practically hear her mind racing, trying to piece together how her perfect secret life was crumbling around her. Everything okay? I mumbled, doing my best impression of someone who'd been awakened by the phone. Just work stuff. Megan's having problems with a client. Another lie to add to the collection. I was starting to lose count. The next morning brought coffee, cartoons, and the delicious sight of Samantha pacing our kitchen like a caged animal. She kept checking her phones, both of them, and jumping every time one buzzed with a message. I might be late picking up Tyler today, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. Crisis at work. What kind of crisis? Personnel issues. Nothing you need to worry about. I nodded sympathetically while internally celebrating. Whatever was happening at her firm, it was clearly connected to my activities yesterday. The dominoes were starting to fall exactly as I'd hoped. After dropping Tyler at school, I drove to the coffee shop across from Samantha's building and settled in with a newspaper and a perfect view of the entrance. At 9:15, I watched her hurry inside, phone pressed to her ear, and stress written across her face in bold letters. At 10:30, Megan Walsh emerged from the building carrying a cardboard box and looking like someone had just told her Santa Claus wasn't real. She stood on the sidewalk for several minutes, making angry phone calls and gesturing wildly at the building behind her. Fired. Had to be. My phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the voice immediately. "You son of a witch!" Brent Morrison snarled. "I know you're behind this." "Behind what? I'm just sitting here reading about local news. Did you know there's been a rash of break-ins in your neighborhood? Very concerning. Megan got fired this morning. Someone sent anonymous tips to her firm about falsified timesheets and inappropriate relationships with clients. That does sound inappropriate. Good thing her company takes ethics seriously. This is harassment. I'm calling my lawyer. You should definitely do that. I'm sure they'll be very interested in your business practices, especially the hands-on client service approach." He hung up with a curse that would have made Tyler ask uncomfortable questions. I was still smiling when my phone buzzed with a text from my mysterious ally. "Well played, but the real show is just getting started. Check your email." The message that appeared in my inbox contained a single attachment, a video file with today's date. I opened it with trembling fingers, not sure what to expect. Security footage. Multiple angles of Brent's apartment building, showing me entering and leaving yesterday afternoon. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was the timestamp showing Megan Walsh entering the building 2 hours after I'd left, using her own key to access Brent's apartment. The video continued, showing her emerging 30 minutes later with a small suitcase and a look of pure rage on her face. She'd been there. She'd seen my handiwork, and based on her expression, she'd taken something with her when she left. My phone rang again. This time it was Samantha. "Jake, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth." "Of course. Did you have anything to do with what happened to Megan?" I let the silence stretch just long enough to make her squirm. "What happened to Megan?" "She got fired this morning. Someone reported her for falsifying timesheets and having inappropriate relationships with clients." "That's terrible. Why would you think I had anything to do with it?" Because you've been acting strange lately. Different. Like you know something." "I know lots of things, Samantha. The question is, what you know?" Another silence. Longer this time. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. But we can discuss it when you get home. Give my regards to Morrison." I hung up before she could respond, then immediately called Richie at the gym. "I need to hit something again. Hard." "Jake, what's going on? You sound dangerous?" "Good. That's exactly how I should sound." An hour later, I was taking my frustrations out on Richie's heavy bag while explaining the morning's developments. He listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or shaking his head at the more creative aspects of my revenge campaign. "So Megan had a key to his apartment," he said when I finished. "That's interesting. More than interesting, it means she's been playing a longer game than I realized. Or she's been played herself. Think about it, Jake. What if this whole thing isn't just about your wife having an affair? What if someone's been orchestrating this from the beginning?" I stopped hitting the bag and stared at him. "What do you mean? You said Megan was the one who introduced Samantha to Morrison, right? And she's been encouraging the relationship, pushing them together at work events?" "Yeah, but that's what single friends do. They live vicariously through married people's drama. Or she's been setting your wife up for something bigger. Think about it. Megan gets fired for falsifying timesheets. Your wife's been working late constantly, supposedly with Morrison. What if those late nights weren't just affairs? What if they were covering for something else?" The pieces clicked together like a puzzle solving itself. Samantha's sudden interest in expensive clothes and jewelry, the burner phone, the mysterious watcher, who made even her nervous, Megan's access to Brent's apartment. "Embezzlement," I whispered, "or fraud, or both. And now someone's cleaning house, eliminating the people who know too much." My phone buzzed with another message from my mysterious ally. "You're getting closer to the truth, but be careful. Cornered animals are dangerous. Protect your son." Ice water flooded my veins. Tyler. If this was bigger than just an affair, if Samantha was involved in something criminal, then my son could be in danger. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Richie called after me. "To get Tyler, and then I'm going to end this thing once and for all." The drive to Tyler's school took forever and no time at all. My mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. If Samantha was embezzling money, she could go to prison. If she was involved with dangerous people, They could hurt Tyler to keep her quiet. I found my son in his classroom, working on a math worksheet with the concentration of a surgeon. He looked up when I appeared in the doorway, his face lighting up with pure joy. "Daddy, are we going on an adventure?" "Something like that, buddy. Pack up your things. We're leaving early today." Mrs. Henderson looked concerned. "Is everything all right, Mr. Mitchell?" "Family emergency. Nothing serious, but we need to go." As we walked to the car, Tyler chattering about his day and holding my hand with complete trust, I made a decision that would change everything. No more games, no more clever pranks or psychological warfare. It was time to confront my wife directly and find out exactly what kind of trouble she'd gotten our family into. And if she wouldn't tell me the truth, I'd find other ways to get it. The gloves were coming off. I picked Tyler up from school and drove straight to my mother's house across town, my hands shaking on the steering wheel as I tried to process everything Richie had suggested. Embezzlement, fraud, criminal conspiracy. The affair was bad enough, but if Samantha had gotten involved in something that could put Tyler in danger... "Daddy, why are we visiting Grandma on a school day?" Tyler asked as we pulled into her driveway. "Sometimes grown-ups need to have important conversations and it's better if kids are somewhere safe and fun while that happens." My mother took one look at my face and immediately switched into protective grandmother mode, whisking Tyler inside for cookies and cartoons while I explained the situation in hushed tones. "Are you sure about this, Jake? Maybe you should call the police." "With what evidence? A burner phone and some suspicious behavior? I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with before I involve law enforcement. Just be careful and call me as soon as you know Tyler's safe." The drive home felt like traveling through a minefield. Every shadow could hide a watcher. Every car could be following me. By the time I pulled into our driveway, paranoia had settled into my bones like arthritis. Samantha's car was already there, which meant she'd left work early, probably to do damage control after Megan's firing and whatever crisis was unfolding at her firm. I found her in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed with both phones in her hands and tears streaming down her face. She looked up when I entered, and for a moment I saw the woman I'd married instead of the stranger who'd been living in our house. "Where's Tyler?" she asked. "Somewhere safe. We need to talk." "Jake, No. You've been talking for months. Lying, actually. Now it's my turn." I pulled the burner phone from my jacket and set it on the dresser between us like evidence in a courtroom. "I know about Brent Morrison. I know about the hotels and the fake work meetings and the elaborate lies you've been telling our son about why Mommy's never home anymore." Her face crumpled. "How long have you known?" "Long enough to document everything. Long enough to destroy Morrison's apartment and get Megan fired and make your perfect little secret world collapse around you." She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. What did you do?" "I fought back. Something you clearly didn't expect from your boring, compliant husband." "Jake, you don't understand. It's not what you think." "Then explain it to me. Explain why you need a burner phone. Explain why someone's been watching our house and asking questions about Tyler at school. Explain why Megan had a key to Morrison's apartment and why she got fired for falsifying timesheets." Samantha went very still. "What do you mean, someone's been watching our house?" "Mrs. Krantz saw a man in a dark sedan parked across the street multiple times this week. Tyler drew a picture of a sad man standing in our yard, and someone at school was asking questions about Tyler's schedule." "Oh, God." She buried her face in her hands. "This is all my fault." "What's your fault? The affair or something bigger?" She looked up at me with eyes full of terror. "Jake, I think I'm in serious trouble. We're in serious trouble." "Then start talking. And this time, tell me the truth." She took a shaky breath and began to speak, her words tumbling out like water through a broken dam. "It started 6 months ago. Megan came to me with what she said was an opportunity, a way to make extra money on the side. She'd found discrepancies in some of our client billing, ways to add hours and inflate costs without anyone noticing. Embezzlement. She called it creative accounting. Said everyone did it, that we deserved more money for the work we were doing. I said no at first, but then Tyler needed those speech therapy sessions and our insurance wouldn't cover them, and you were working so hard just to pay our regular bills. So you decided to steal." "I decided to take what I'd earned. Do you know how much money I bring into that firm? How much profit they make off my designs while paying me a fraction of what I'm worth?" "How much, Samantha? How much did you steal?" "It wasn't stealing, it was..." "How much?" She flinched at my raised voice. "About $40,000 over 4 months. But Jake, I was going to pay it back. I had a plan. And Morrison, where does he fit into your plan? He was supposed to be cover. Megan said if anyone got suspicious about the extra hours, I needed a reason to be working late. A demanding client who required personal attention. So you slept with him to cover up embezzlement. It wasn't supposed to go that far. It was just supposed to be dinners and late meetings, something to explain the timesheets. But he was charming, and you and I were barely talking anymore, and I felt so guilty about the money that you decided to add adultery to your list of crimes. Jake, please. I know I made terrible choices, but I was trying to provide for our family by destroying it. She started crying again, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Megan said it was foolproof. She said she'd done it before with other associates, that the partners were too busy to audit individual accounts. But someone found out. This morning, HR called me into a meeting and showed me printouts of every falsified timesheet, every inflated invoice, every penny I'd taken. They said they had an anonymous tip, and they fired you. Worse, they're pressing charges. Jake, I could go to prison. I sat down heavily in the chair by our window, trying to process the magnitude of what she'd confessed. My wife wasn't just an adulteress, she was a criminal, and now she'd dragged our family into the consequences of her choices. What about the watcher? The man asking questions about Tyler? I don't know. Maybe it's someone from the firm trying to gather evidence, or maybe... She trailed off, her face going pale. Maybe what? Megan mentioned something once about having insurance, ways to make sure that everyone kept quiet if things went wrong. What kind of insurance? I don't know. She was always cryptic about her methods. But Jake, what if she's been setting me up from the beginning? What if this was never about making extra money? My phone buzzed with a text from my mysterious ally. Get your family out of the house. Now they're coming. I showed Samantha the message. Who is this person and who's coming? I don't know who's been texting you, but if someone's coming, she grabbed my arm. Jake, we need to leave right now. Tyler's safe. He's at my mother's house. Then we go there too. Pack whatever you can carry and let's get out of here. As we threw clothes and important documents into suitcases, I tried to make sense of everything I'd learned. Samantha was a thief and an adulteress, but she was also a victim of someone else's manipulation. Megan had orchestrated the whole thing, using Brent as bait and Samantha as the fall guy. But why? What was Megan's endgame? My phone rang. Unknown number. Jake Mitchell, this is Detective Sarah Rodriguez with the Millbrook Police Department. We need to speak with you and your wife about some irregularities at her workplace. What kind of irregularities? Embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy. We have a warrant for Mrs. Mitchell's arrest. I looked at Samantha, who had gone white as paper. Detective, my wife and I would like to cooperate fully with your investigation. But we have reason to believe we're in danger. Someone's been watching our house and threatening our family. Sir, I need you both to come to the station immediately. We'll be there within the hour. But I'm bringing my lawyer, and I want protection for my son. That can be arranged. 1 hour, Mr. Mitchell. Don't make me come looking for you. I hung up and looked at Samantha, who was clutching a suitcase like a life preserver. They're going to arrest me, she whispered. Maybe, but first, we're going to tell them everything you know about Megan Walsh and her insurance policies. Because I have a feeling this goes deeper than embezzlement. Jake, I'm so sorry for all of it. The affair, the money, putting Tyler in danger. Save the apologies. Right now, we focus on keeping our son safe and figuring out who's been pulling the strings. As we loaded our car and prepared to leave the house that no longer felt like home, I realized that my elaborate revenge campaign had been nothing more than a sideshow. The real villain wasn't Brent Morrison or even my cheating wife. It was someone who'd been playing a much longer, more dangerous game. And we were about to find out just how dangerous.